Hello and welcome to the Video Game Book Club, a podcast that is exactly how it sounds. It is a book club about video game books.
Yep, that's what we do.
The Video Game Book Club.
Book club.
Maybe we should do Book Club, because
The
it's like a
book
video
club?
game book and then book club.
That's a lot of books.
It's 2 books.
Book
Wow,
club.
Billy, 2 whole books?
We only read once a month, so.
Yeah, we're not that crazy. This one took a long time.
But we read it in like 4 days.
We read it in a week, which
Both
was
of
a
us.
mistake.
Yes.
This month we read
Ico.
Ico Castle in the Mist.
Cool.
So I called it Ico for a very long time until I watched an interview with the director who called it Ico.
I saw a TikTok.
So I was like, okay, well now, and I'm probably gonna slip into Ico, and you're just gonna have to accept it. And
I've heard it both ways.
I'm not sorry, actually. It's just gonna happen. I'm gonna try my best, but my best is never good enough, so.
It's just fine. You can only do your best. So this is by, is it Miyuki Miyabe?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's translated by Alexander O. Smith. The cover art, you said this was the inspiration for the game, right?
Yeah, so this is what I heard from a retrospective, so take it with a grain of salt. But apparently the director saw a commercial of a man and woman holding hands, and he was like, ooh, I want to make that into a game. So he sketched that art out first, and that's the Japanese cover of the game. He wanted to make a minimalist meet cute.
Or maybe it was too early for the minimalistic millennial beige era.
Maybe, you're right.
Before his time.
This came out in 2002 and 2003.
Well, this does kind of look like that. So there's a windmill on it, and then, which is both in the game and the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how he's going to climb that, but to each their own. And then there's this weird arch on top of arch that has one ladder. And then you have a boy with a stick with one horn you can see, and they're silhouetted dragging a girl in white.
I mean,
Potentially.
if I said this was a minimalistic meet cute, like,
It's very like Salvador Dali.
I would believe that. They're like, that's my goal. I'd be like,
Yeah.
yeah, you achieved it. That's what that is. So, this story originally came out in installments in like a magazine back in Japan in 2002, 2003.
Oh.
So that's why it's spaced kind of weird.
Well, you do have some that lead into the next chapter, though.
Yeah, there
You mean
are
the
like,
installments are the sections within the chapters?
the sections.
So there are 4 chapters and then an epilogue, and then within each chapter there are sections. It goes like 8, 8, 16.
I thought that they were all going to be 8,
Yeah.
so when they weren't, I was very disappointed.
Chapter 3, and we'll talk about it more when we get in depth, was unnecessary.
Yes. So what's the back of the book say?
The back of the book is Ico Castle in the Mist. A boy with horns marked for death. A girl who sleeps in a cage of iron. The castle in the mist has called for its sacrifice a horned child, born once a generation, which is also not
It's once every
accurate to the book.
10 years, right?
No, because in the book they were like, it could be 10 years, it could be like
well,
90. He was hoping that his son didn't have one of the horned kids.
generation with asterisk.
Yeah. When on a single night in his 13th year, Ico's horns grew long and curved. He knows his time has come. But why does the castle in the mist demand his offering? And what will Ico do with the girl imprisoned within the castle walls? Delve into the mysteries of Miyuki Miyabe's grand achievement of the imagination inspired by award-winning game for the PlayStation 2 computer entertainment system, now remastered for the PlayStation 3.
So this is Miyabe's personal interpretation of the story.
In the prologue, she's like, thank you so much for the game, and thank you for letting me write my own stuff.
Yeah, which I feel like should be a little warning before every one of these novels, where it's like, here, this is this guy's interpretation of events that happened in this game.
Although I feel like everything that happened in the game happens in the book.
Yes, this is greatly like expanded upon, like a little too much so. And this book is considered to be non-canonical because this is just Miyabe going off.
Yeah. I don't think either of us really enjoyed this book.
I have complicated feelings on this book, and I wrote about it on our Fable app. It was like, because I didn't hate this book, and there are really cool parts in it, and I kind of wish that this book was the game, and that the game was the book.
Yeah.
Because I think it would have been better that way, personally, because there's really cool stuff that happens in this book that I think is really interesting and, like, kind of gory, actually, kind of horror.
Yeah, this goes so dark, but I guess
messed
child sacrifice is always
up.
dark, but
And the game was trying to be super vague and
Yeah.
like ethereal almost. So, I don't know. The stuff that happened in this game, I was like, this would be cool to play. I'm sad that this isn't the game. But I don't hate it. I liked the flowery language and I liked some events. I just felt like the pacing was bad and
Yeah.
it went on for too long.
I would have, and I also wrote this in the Fable app where I think we both really struggled when we got to chapter 3 because it's a different POV and it didn't fit with the rest of the book at all. So if they would have taken that out and maybe put those as some of the memories, or I wrote that
Yeah.
like that needed to be the second chapter, remove some of the parts that
We'll go more in depth about this after we finish spoiling it because right now we're trying to be super vague.
But editing wise, I feel like it should have been reordered and that would have been a lot smoother
it should have
because
been reordered.
chapter 3 was also twice as long as any of the other chapters. And so
It
once
felt like
you're
a whole book on its own.
marathon. Yeah, it should have been like an extra part at the end, or like it should
Yeah.
have been like a prequel book.
Something. It should have been just its own thing.
Yeah. But that would have been better.
They could have committed to like the going back in time. What are the visions?
Yeah.
Because basically that chapter was just going back in time, but it wasn't a vision. But it was a vision.
But it is because they talk about it at the end
it
of the
was
chapter, so
too
he sees
long.
everything. But
Anyway,
Yeah.
it was weirdly. I'm sorry, Miyabe, but it's weirdly written, dude.
yeah, I just feel like it was disjointed there. Like they're like, well, people may not understand what's going on, so you need a backstory.
And it constantly changed what the actual
Yes.
stuff that was going on was. It was
And then
like,
I kept being like, oh, is this that? And then it never was. And then I just constantly like get my hopes up and I'm disappointed by
I
what
kept
it
having to
actually is.
change the rules because the book was changing the rules. Like our protagonist is named Ico.
Like Echo.
Ico.
It should be Echo. Because it's an echo of the
Because
past.
he yells and
Yeah, and he yells,
then
too.
It's an echo. Ico is the name of the horned boy and our protagonist, and he. What was I gonna say?
changes the rules on you.
He does. He's like, I understand now.
Yeah.
That's this. And I was
Kinda
like,
figures it out.
you got it. And I was like, how come this boy is figuring this out? And then all of a sudden, he doesn't know anything and the
Yeah.
stuff changes and he has a vision and he's like, never mind, never mind, never mind. It's actually this.
Yeah.
He's like, never mind, it's actually this. So it's me being like, what is it? Who's lying to me?
I wrote that down several times in my notes too. Be like,
What is going on?
What is happening?
And at the end of the book, when they like reveal everything, but not really, because
Yeah.
you're like, who's lying? Who doesn't know stuff? I don't know. I still don't fully know what the truth was, to be honest.
Hopefully, you and I can parse it out.
Yeah.
Once we start talking to it. Again, we're this is the non-spoiler section, so we're not giving you a whole lot. I struggled a little bit with like what was going on, but that was also part of the book because the castle is confusing on purpose in the book, and I was confused. Like I was like, where are we? What's going on? What does this look like? So I think if you haven't played the game,
Oh yeah.
watch at least the first 30 minutes of because I found a really good like no commentary walkthrough that was like 3 hours long.
The game is very short.
Yeah, I got kind of halfway through and looking at all the stuff was so helpful. So if you have not played the game, I would suggest at least watching some of a playthrough so that way you can get the visual of what the castle actually looks like. Because again, everything that happens in the game is in the book.
I can kind of see though reading this and then like wanting to play the game because Miyabe talks about that, and like, but I think it would be better if you played the game first.
Yeah.
And then you went and you were like, I like this game a lot. I want more context.
Because
And
it is very vague. Again, there is story, but it's not explicit.
she said in her like thing, the little thing before,
prologue.
she's like, this isn't a walkthrough for the game. The
Preface.
puzzles are going to be different.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what puzzles? They're like,
You got to pull the
pull the lever,
Yeah.
climb up the thing. And I'm like, that's all the puzzles are in the game.
open the
anyway.
door, move the
So
little
don't use this
idols.
as a walkthrough.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not. She changed some stuff up. But I think this is best read after you have enjoyed Ico fully first. I think if you went in on it without knowing anything, it would
Because I forgot
be
that we played this game
a
too.
little rough. Yeah. So we're gonna go.
What did you end up giving it?
Okay, so on Fable, because you can do halfies, I gave it 2.5. And on Goodreads, I gave it 3 because I kind of want to give it 3, but also I started skimming it near the end. So I feel like if I start skimming a book because I'm like, then I don't think I should give it a good score.
Yeah, it didn't pull you in.
But I also didn't hate it because I can kind of see maybe if I was given more time to read this book, and it was my fault because I just decided to start it this week.
We had a bunch of stuff going on this month, so we left it to the last minute and we're like, oh shoot, we have a podcast.
Maybe. But I was also kind of frustrated by how confusing and like I said before, they constantly changed the rules that I'm like, taking notes for this sucked. I would not recommend taking notes for this. Unless, I don't know, maybe you're the type of person who likes to highlight stuff and add little tabbies. That might be funner.
Annotation. To follow certain things that might be helpful. But again, things change.
Things change all the time.
So it's confusing. I once this is put out there, my stars, I held off on rating it because I wanted to watch the playthrough first to see if I was crazy. But I think if they would have removed chapter 3 and just had 1, 2, 4, and then the epilogue, I thought that would have been a more successful book, and I probably would have rated it higher. Because the beginning of the book I really liked, and I was like, at first I was like, oh, this is a good read, and then I was like, oh, this might be a 4, which is rare for us.
I thought it was a 4 for a long time until chapter 3.
And
and then I was like, I don't know about that anymore.
So I'll probably put 3, maybe 3.5 for Fable, just because I think watching the game gave me a better appreciation for what was happening in the book and how she wrote about it. So
yeah, I kind of liked the flowery way she wrote. Like it was hard for me to. It was like 3 or 2. I did skim it, but like 3 because I kind of liked it. I don't know.
I didn't think also chapter 4 though like got us back into the like what's happening with. That's called the final battle. Is chapter 4, and it goes a little back and forth with the past and the present.
Yeah.
But then I have questions about that. So, are we ready to get into it?
Yeah, let's.
Spoiler
alert. This isn't a spoiler for the game at all. Mainly because they're completely different. Like the plot and the main motivation of the main villain is different in this book versus the game. So we're not going to spoil Ico for you. Ico. But we are going to spoil this book completely.
Just think of Echo.
So
maybe we should just call him Echo.
No.
There starts with the preface, which we've already talked about. It's the author saying this is a novelization of the PS2 game, sort of. So she took a lot of liberties, but it gave it a lot. I feel like it gave it a lot more depth. The first chapter is called "As the Priest Says," and it starts with the loom had fallen silent. There's a lot of names that. Is it One?
So I had a robot read it to me, so it was...
Oh, there is no audio version of this book. And Savvy had it on her Kindle, right? And the Kindle read it to you?
Yes.
And then I have the paperback. The paperback, by the way, is 370 pages.
Oh, and so because the audiobook was read by a robot, they kept saying ICO.
Oh, that's a cooler name.
So they call them ICO, which I might just call them that.
ICO.
So Ona is who you're thinking of. Is how the robot said it.
Okay. One.
If we're going off of the robot rules here.
They created that starts off confusing. Because it's like, there is this elder and he has this room built for a loom for weaving. And this lady doesn't want to be there. I was like, what?
She's crying.
What is happening?
So
she says it's too cruel.
It's the time, basically it's the time of the sacrifice. And our POV currently is the elder of Tosca Village.
He's 70 years old.
And a boy with horns growing from his head is going to be the sacrifice. So then it goes kind of back in time where we look at the elder's father. And he seems
Who
to
was
be...
also the elder.
Yeah. He seems to be worried about this. And they put off the sacrifice for too long. And the sacrifice seems to be the one who... Wait, they're sacrificing it to the one who rules in the castle in the mist.
Yeah.
Is why we must sacrifice this kid with the horns.
So every
It's a
once
tradition.
in a while, someone will have a baby who is born with horns randomly. And then that baby is taken from those parents and given to the elder to raise, because at 13, their horns are going to grow, and that's when they go to be sacrificed at the castle.
And then they banish the parents.
Yeah,
They're
parents
like,
have to go to town.
Get out the village, go to the capital.
Well, they talk about that too later, and it does kind of make sense, but it's also... They're like, well, you already had the baby with the horn, so you can have a whole other family and be okay. But also, you're not watching this kid being raised knowing that your child is going to be sacrificed.
Yeah.
But then also, the reason why the lady is having issues in the loom is because she helped raise this kid.
She ends up being the elder's wife.
And so she really cared for this kid. Although at the time that they got him, they already had grandchildren.
Yeah.
And they loved this kid more, is what it says.
Yeah, basically. So they're trying to really make sure the sacrifice does not escape. That's like the number one thing that the elder's father, like told the elder.
You have to train him as well. Yeah. And it's very specific. It's like, we're not going to kill him. He's just going to be offered as a sacrifice. And I was like, what?
Going to be absorbed into the castle. Yeah. So we're on...
So the elder doesn't fully know what happens. He just knows that those kids don't come back. But it wasn't within his lifetime, because his father... was like, I was hoping this wouldn't happen.
Because he didn't have to deal with it.
Yeah.
The father, the elder's father never had to. He's like, oh no, I put it off for too long.
Oh, and the elder's wife breaks the loom. She's like, I hate it here.
So 2 is the boy's POV, which is our boy ICO.
Yeah, ICO's a cooler name.
His friend Toto,
favorite character of the book,
brought him some sweets while he was in a jail. They put him
He's in a cave.
In a cave. This is going to be probably really annoying. We're just going to switch between Ico, ICO, and
ICO sounds way cooler, though.
So, he's in jail. He's in a cave. He's locked up. He's getting ready to be sacrificed.
I was really confused because I was like, has he been in this cave this entire time? And he's only been in the cave for like 10 days.
Yeah, that's still a long time.
That's still a long time.
I don't feel like they needed to do this to him.
But as soon as his horns grew, then they were like, cave.
Put him in the cave. They have to wait for the priest to show up to take him to the castle, basically. Toto tells ICO to run away with him, but ICO said, no, he's got to be sacrificed. You know, it's the rules.
And Toto doesn't understand, and then ICO says, when you turn 15, everything will be explained to you.
They're not supposed to talk about the curse of the castle, but they told ICO early because it's just like going to, like, joining the military where you get to drink early and stuff. He gets to know the information because he's going to die.
Also because they want to make sure that he's not going to run away. They took him to the Forbidden Mountain to show him something that would make sure that he would do his duty. Yeah,
he went to the castle or like somewhere near it, and they're like, look, you got to be sacrificed to keep this castle from being angry.
Yeah, the wrath. I was like, what the... Again, it was like, what did he see? Because they don't tell us right away. Yeah. And it's like, what is the wrath of the castle? And then it says, once he is sacrificed, he becomes part of the castle and he lives forever. Which becomes really messed up when you find out what actually happens.
And Toto's like, all right, I'll see you later. And ICO's like, do not say I'll see you later. You'll never see me again. Toto's like, oh, doesn't matter, I'll see you later.
Yeah.
So now,
again,
part 3
Toto is my favorite character. So
is Ona's POV, which is the elder's wife.
Yeah.
And she's weaving again.
Sort of.
She's the wife of the elder.
No, she's sort of weaving.
Oh, she's sort of the wife of the elder.
And Ico was the light of her heart. And so she's struggling. Her brother is an asshole.
They talk about her brother like it matters.
Yeah.
I thought this was important, but she like, Her brother knew that he liked the ICO kid a lot
the
better.
grandkids kept asking, like, why do you like him better than us? And she's like, well, he's not going to be around for much longer. Her brother says that Ico is soulless and that his soul resides in the castle and that he's going back to it. So he's like, everyone's telling her not to care for this kid, but in the end, her caring for him, it was like
important.
The important part of it.
Her brother's like exiled by her family and went off on his own. I don't know why we need to know this.
Oh, that was a different brother.
Oh, it's a dog. I thought it was the same brother.
No, because he doesn't have kids.
Ona and the elder had an arranged marriage.
Mm-hmm.
She's from a different area. Her brother knew about the curse of the castle, but didn't tell her until Ico was born, and then her husband told her. So she didn't even know when she was 15 because she was from a different village.
Yeah, and only this village has kids with horns.
Yeah.
Once every whatever years.
She would write letters to her brother when she told him that she knew about the curse, and then he began to send really weird letters back and then died.
Yeah, so when she said she's going to marry this guy and he's like, oh, you're going to that village. And so he knows because he was going to be a priest. And then we get this whole religion of the great sun god, which is Sol Reve.
Oh. Sol Raven. I don't know. I think that's how they said it.
And that her brother knew what was up, but he went to go teach in a village because he didn't want to be a priest.
So he's in like is he in a village or is he in like the capital?
He was in the capital, but then he took off because he didn't want to be a priest, and he was just in some village teaching the local kids as he did his own like research.
Because it was suspicious when she told him, like, yeah, I know about the secret of the castle now, and then he kept sending her like propaganda about how you shouldn't care about this kid, the castle needs to be, and then he dies, and I was like, so who killed him? Who killed him? Like, we never found that out. That never gets solved.
And then we find out there was a great battle that led to the sacrifice. So you don't find out about what's happening with the sacrifice for quite a while. Toto comes in to ask her where the priest is, because he's going to ask the priest if he could go with his bro.
He doesn't want him to be alone going to the castle. Ona is like, nah, I think I'll go with Ico instead.
I should be the one.
And so Ona's weaving Ico's special sacrifice outfit.
He's got a tunic, that has a mark on it.
We find out that some child, like, because she has to be escorted from her weaving room.
She should be watched all the time.
All the time.
She has to finish this tunic before he gets sacrificed. So before they call the priest, she has to finish the tunic. And so that's why she's kind of delaying it, because then he'll be sacrificed.
Yeah.
So that's why she has to be the one that makes his sacrificial clothes, which is kind of messed up.
So like a hunter comes in and is like, are you ready to go back to your hut? Because you can't walk alone at night, I guess. Yeah. And we find out that a child hunter died in the Forbidden Mountains because he saw something. Yeah. And he's not allowed to talk about what he saw.
Well, he dies like the next day too, so he comes back injured.
Yeah.
And they don't know like
and
what's wrong with him.
He's freaking out, and then he dies, and they think it's because the castle is angry. So they're like, oh no,
lady, you're taking too long.
We have to sacrifice this thing. The castle's mad.
Yeah.
Toto was eavesdropping during this conversation because once the hunter showed up, he was like, oh, peace.
Hidden like the rafters or something.
Yeah, he knows where the castle is because it's somewhere in the Forbidden Mountains. Because they basically said, like, if you go past the Forbidden Mountains, the castle's at the very, very end of it. So he decides he's going to go on ahead into the Forbidden Mountains and then meet up with the priest and Ico in the middle, like right before they get there. And so now he has to take him because,
I'm already here, suckers.
All right. Now we're on number 4, not chapter 4, but...
Chapter 1, section 4.
Section 4. We're in Ico's POV.
And they're like, no one else can use a loom right now. So she's the only one. So that's how, like, Ico knows that when he hears the loom, he knows it's his...
It's like morning.
Yeah, adopted mom.
Because he can't tell what time it is in the cave.
Surprise, surprise, Toto's missing.
Yep. And Ico hears that Toto is missing, caused a stir in the village. He took some of the village horses. Ico figured out Toto's plan pretty fast, actually.
This was a really messed up section because the elder comes in to, like, interrogate him to be like,
Yeah.
where is Toto? You know where Toto is.
You know where Toto
This was
is.
your scheme all along. You're going to run away. You're going to ruin it for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And
he slapped him.
Yeah, he's like, I have no idea where Toto is. Like, I'll go look for him. And they're like, this was the plan all
he's
along.
like, if he probably went to the Forbidden Mountains and like, I know how to get there and I can go get him and bring him back. And he's like, oh, you're planning to escape? And then like backhands him.
Toto's dad is a hunter, so he knows, like.
Yeah. Icy was in shock, and then this is when he realized how messed up this whole thing is.
Mm-hmm.
He was totally down to be a sacrifice, but he slowly loses it as people start backhanding him in the face.
Yeah.
So Toto POV, he's riding the horse that he stole, Arrowwind.
And there's the quote on here, again, this all so messed up. The elder, is a quote about the elder. He says, the books tell us that we must never trust our hearts to the sacrifice.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I was like... You raised this kid, and he is willing to do this for you, and you're an awful adopted parent.
I'm trying to close their heart off, turn it to stone.
Toto sees that he's in the Forbidden Forest, and then he's listening, and he's like, "There's no sign of life in these hills whatsoever. Everything's super quiet." He sees a gray city.
He sees a giant stone city and he peeks over and he's like, oh, there's people in here, but they're not moving.
And they're also gray.
So, yeah. And then after that, we cut back to section 5.
Actually,
and
I was like, are they statues?
The village men couldn't find Toto. So the priest is getting impatient. The elder
messenger is super sassy.
Is mad, but mostly at himself for slapping Ico, which he should be.
A messenger from the priest comes with some attitude.
With some attitude.
He's like, hurry us up. The hunter that died, the one who saw something. The hunter died. Sorry.
Okay. Back to Toto. He's realizing that everyone is stone in this village.
He keeps touching
they're
stuff.
They're frozen and they look horrified and they're easy to crumble.
So every time he touches something, it crumbles. And I'm like, stop touching the frickin' statues, Toto.
He finds a boy like hiding and playing hide and seek.
The quote in there was, Toto was not the brightest boy.
Not. I don't know why I added this in, but it was just a boy did not know he was about to be turned to stone, so he was like the only one that he saw.
Yeah.
That didn't look like he was terrified.
He was playing hide and seek behind the boxes.
So
he realizes that the curse of the castle in the mist
is so that his village doesn't turn to stone.
Yeah.
Is what he thinks is gonna happen.
This is where,
which I was like, yeah, okay.
As I was reading further on, I started really thinking about this city. Mm-hmm. Because we find out why and when the city gets turned to stone, but the next thing that happens is that there's a woman's face in the sky.
Yeah, mist
so she
starts
can
coming in. She
go
can leave
out of the castle, which is not canon with the rest of the story whatsoever.
It doesn't make a lot of sense, but a black mist comes in a woman's face, and she's like, who even are you?
Intruder, what are you doing here?
He doesn't reply.
Yeah, who are you? What are you doing? He's like scared because there's a face in the sky.
This face is talking to him.
Intruder.
So like Arrowwind bolts away and gets turned to stone by this woman.
That was sad for me.
And then
Toto
Toto
was, like nudging him, trying to get him to move along and all that stuff, and
then Toto was like, "Oh no!" and then ran away, and the woman followed. So he ran into a house and hid. And started crying, and this house had like stone books in it.
Yeah, he hides in a cellar, which the whole time I'm reading this, I'm like, how is he gonna get out? Because everything he touches starts to crumble.
If he touches the wall, he's doomed.
How is he gonna get out of here?
Yeah, I don't know. But the lady cannot find him in this house.
And he was making a bunch of noise, but then he's like hiding in the shadows. He keeps touching all these books, but one book does not crumble.
It's a magical paper book, and Toto can't read it, but he wants to take it to show the elder because he thinks the elder can read it.
Because it's glowing.
So he's going to try to wait and escape at night, where he doesn't think that the lady will be able to find him.
With his glowing book.
So he managed to actually make it out of the city with the book without being turned to stone. So then we're at the elder POV in section 6. They found Toto. He's lying in a field. The elder talks to Toto.
He's like, everyone, get out of this room. Because, like, Toto's mom and dad are there. And he's
Yeah,
like, I
and
need to
his
talk to him alone.
Siblings. Well, the elder talks at Toto
Yeah.
because Toto can barely speak. About the city of death, Toto talks about a woman's face. He's covered in dust. And he's like, here, elder, here's the book
Yeah.
I found. It's the book of
I'm
life.
like, don't give up that book, Toto.
And then right after giving the elder the book, Toto turns to stone.
Yeah. Which I was like, well, F this book, because he was my favorite character. I was like, rip Toto.
It protected him, and the elder thinks it was the god of light who summoned Toto to get that book.
Also, I was confused that why doesn't he or the horse, because he touches the horse and he leaves.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, why don't they turn to dust?
I think it's just time. Like how long you've been to stone.
Yeah.
How strong your stone is. Not withered.
The elder reacts quickly and is like, everyone, light the torches. Everyone has to stay inside I feel like they're like a primitive town is what it kind of sounded like.
This sounds like like they have
Like a village.
and stuff. Yeah. So they want men on guard constantly. They want children to play instruments in the, like, constantly. Make a lot of noise, but then at night, dead silence.
Yeah.
Everybody. It's kind of weird.
It was weird. Nonsensical.
I don't understand why he did this, to be honest. I have no idea.
I think it's just one of those, like,
Throw salt over your shoulder. Like,
yeah, superstition.
If it's really loud during the day, then the queen won't want to come near the queen of the castle or whatever.
She's sleeping at night, so
And at night, so everyone be quiet.
He also goes into the loom room and like tears down.
Stop working on this, wife.
I need you to work on this.
Change this mark. So they're gonna switch the mark on the outfit to be the one from the book.
The cover of the book. Yeah. We still don't know what the book says.
I don't know.
Like no one reads the book the whole time.
Can the elder even read the book? I don't think so. No. I don't think anyone can. So section 7, we're on Icio's point of view, and he's thinking about Toto.
And the time that they were in a cave, and there was a lake in there, and then there was light in bioluminescence, I'm assuming, and they kept jumping in the
So they told him that they found Toto, but they didn't tell him that he got turned to stone. So.
And it's both the elder and his wife.
Yeah, they show up to like show him the outfit he's going to wear, and it's glowing, and it's imbued with a magical prayer mark and stuff.
It's like Harry Potter grabs his wand.
Yeah. Oh, his hair flows back.
Mm-hmm. And then they take the tunic off, and they're like, all right.
You have to wear this when the priest shows up.
Yeah, the priest's gonna put this on you. But don't say that you've seen it before, because we were just checking to see if it's the right
mark
size.
is different than the other sacrifices, so we're hoping that the priest doesn't notice that. And they want him to defeat the castle, lady in the castle.
You
and
have a chance
to come home.
Your cleverness is knowledge.
Yeah.
Which comes... It's like, I feel like it's the running joke, because he's like, knowledge is what will save you, and he's like, knowledge of what?
He doesn't know. By the end of this, he still doesn't know.
Yeah. He's like, oh, maybe that's what they were talking about.
So
I have questions about that.
Section 8, it's departure ceremony time.
The priest is an asshole.
Yeah. Temple guards that show up with the priest have horned helmets, which I think is kind of, I put tasteless.
Yeah.
It's kind of rude, actually.
But it makes sense, I guess, later on.
Does it?
Because of Azuma.
Why are they wearing the horns?
Because the kids that actually have horns die.
Yeah, so why are they wearing horns? They're like, we sacrifice
it's part
people
of the
with
sacrifice.
Horns. So we're going to have the guards that take you to go get sacrificed to wear horns.
But also your horns either grow up or they grow down. So one guy has the horns up and the other guy has the horns down. So that was weird. Again, it's part of the...
Yeah, so the priest shows up, they tap him with a scepter a couple times, they throw some holy water in his face, and then they put him in irons, and they threaten to cut him down if he tries to run, and he also can't talk to them.
Yeah, they're like, you can talk, but we're not going to talk to you, and we're going to be quiet, but they're not.
The guards
they
are
talk
nice.
to each other.
The guards are nice to him a little bit. It's going to take him
He's like touching a horse,
days.
And one of them like kicks him, and
3 days to get to the castle.
5 days.
Oh.
To get to the beach. Where the castle is.
So the priests like open secret paths and stuff to get there. And then when he goes to bed, they put chains on his feet and a bag over his head.
Yeah, they're just a-holes.
It's messed up.
Also, have we heard of any of the kids actually running?
No.
No.
Maybe they did, so they had to do this.
Yeah, they're like, haha.
But the reason why they have to put a bag over his head because he's not allowed to see the guards' faces.
Yeah,
And I'm like, why not?
That also didn't make any sense
I
whatsoever.
don't get that. Weird religious
So they had to take,
mumbo-jumbo.
because their little helmet things cover their whole face. So in order for them to eat, it's like the Mandalorian, right? No one can see their face, so they had to put a bag over his head while they were eating.
It's crazy.
Also, made no sense and was not important to the story whatsoever.
Nope, it was not.
Yeah. Because he knew that the horns were fake.
Yeah.
So he knew that they weren't real horns in the helmet. So I don't know. I was confused. I was like, are they on a cliff? I'm not quite sure what any of this looked like. Because we're now in chapter 2 at the Castle of the Mist.
He can hear the sea or smell the sea. And he's like, something smells weird. And then one of the guards is like, it's the sea. And the priest is like, oh, can't believe he talked to him. So yeah, the Castle of the Mist. They made it. This is the intro of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So they take a boat. They see some idols that glow with one of the guards' swords. They're solving puzzles. They're opening secret doors.
Yeah, I was like, why is there a sword? What is happening?
Something about void spirits stealing children, so wizards were hired to trap them in sarcophagus.
Also, there's a bunch of like italicized stuff in the book, and I couldn't tell who it was. It's like someone was talking to him, but it was also like internal dialogue, and I was like, what? Who is this? Is it the castle lady? I was like, is it Ico? Or like, what?
I don't know.
Who was talking here? So that was a little confusing.
Yeah, so he's like, what's in the sarcophagus? And they're like, in his mind, he came up with void spirits stealing children, wizards made sarcophagus. It's not what happened.
It was, he goes back to like his mom. I'm just going to call her his mom. Mm-hmm. She tells all these like folk tales. Yeah, malicious spirits, they stole children. And so there was rage in their heart, and the rage in their heart became demons.
Nice.
And then the creator was like, all right, well, these spirits don't have souls, so I'm going to give them souls. But the demons in their heart ate the souls. And so they had to put the spirits in the sarcophagi. And then one sarcophagi is glowing, and they're like, that's yours, kid.
So yeah, the glowing sarcophagus has the same mark that's on his outfit. So they put him in the stone sarcophagus.
And they tie his hand in there.
Yeah. They closed the lid and they left. The sarcophagus starts rocking. And then it creaked open. And Ico fell out. Ico. Yep. And passed out. A lot of passing out in this, by the way.
Yeah.
A lot of passing out.
It's raining. And he's exploring. And he's like, oh, look, a tower. And he walks up the stairs. There's a giant cage, and it's dripping with blood.
But it's black blood.
Yeah.
Someone's looking at him from inside the cage, but the shadow shows up behind him and starts sucking him in, and then he wakes up. He was only dreaming. That was a dream.
And he wakes up next to the broken sarcophagus.
He realized the sarcophagus spat him out, but he poisoned it, is what he assumed happened here.
Because of his symbol on his shirt.
So,
that he was the poison. So
yeah.
It was like, bleh.
It was like bleh.
Oh, because it's also not lit anymore, so it's like dead.
So Ico is running around pulling levers, and he sees the lit torches, and he's like, who lit these? Why are there lit torches?
Did the priest light these?
Yeah.
He's like, what's happening?
He's climbing chains like he does in the game, and then we're on section 3, and Ico jumps through a window and drops pretty far. He's both hungry and thirsty, and he continues to wander. He finds the place from his dream that he just had, with the cage in the middle. Mm-hmm. He was like, whoa, this time there's a glowy white person in there. Better be careful, and shadows don't grab me from behind, though. So he's like, I gotta go save them. So he pulls the letter, and the cage drops, but like stops halfway through. And he can see that the figure inside is a woman. So
he's like, hello!
He jumps on the roof of the cage to break the chain, and the cage falls, which is the actual puzzle solution for the game. The woman in white,
she just like walks out too.
She's a young girl, taller than Ico, short brown hair.
No human girl could be
brown
this
eyes.
Beautiful.
I guess so.
There's a cloud of inky black smoke that's behind her.
She also is speaking a different language from Ico, so
this was the thing that pissed me off the most in this book.
a lot of miscommunication. So if you don't like that trope, then I wouldn't read this
Well,
book.
it goes back and forth. Is like, okay, it seems like she doesn't understand him at all, and she's speaking a different language, so he definitely doesn't understand her at all.
They both
And
don't understand each other
then,
at all.
like, they kind of understand each other, and then they don't again, and then
The reason why they do stuff is completely different from each other. It's very difficult, which is kind of like playing the game, because when you play the game, you're dragging her around basically, and like if you let go of her hand, she'll kind of wander around on her own.
that was annoying too, because that they talk about that in chapter 4, where he's like, she just keeps wandering by the thing.
What's crazy is she'll wander somewhere. I've had this happen when I played the game. She'll wander somewhere and she'll like point at something and say something, and I'm like, you want me to do something there? But you actually don't need to do something there. You have to go do something somewhere else, because I thought she was giving me hints, but she's not giving me hints. She's like, there, and I'm like, what? Like, there, and I was like, do you want me to jump over there? I jump over there, nothing's over there. I had to go the opposite direction. So she is on, like, she's doing something else.
Yeah, she's a little cuckoo.
I don't know what she's doing, but we both are not understanding each other.
Maybe she's like remembering something.
Maybe.
So the blackie smoke that is behind her grabs her, and the shadow is trying to take her into these dark puddles.
Yeah.
But Ico saves her.
He just
which
pulls her out of the puddle.
Happens multiple times in the book and all the time in the game.
All the time in the game. That's your whole game mechanics, is if you're not solving puzzles, you're fighting these shadow creatures and you're pulling your girlfriend out of puddles of darkness.
But in the book, when they touch, he gets visions of the past.
And every time we touch, I get this feeling.
He sees a man with a beard looking at the cage, and he's like grumpy about it. And this, again, there's some miscommunication here, because we find out who this is in the vision later on in the book, but the description of him reminded me of one of the stone people in the cemetery that we also see later on. So I was like, oh, it's that guy. That's what I feel like happened all the time.
I don't know who this guy was.
He's the master guy that she meets in the library.
Oh, he's the, okay.
Because they talk about it
Master
later on in the book.
Sugal or whatever.
Yeah.
So this old man, he's like, man, this is so messed up. This castle, it's not the way it should be right now.
Yeah.
Gross. And that was the vision.
That was the vision. But then you see a guy who has identical descriptions when you see in chapter 3, we go under the cemetery and we find all these stone people. And I was like, oh, he got turned to stone. This grumpy guy who was nosing about and being upset, he got turned to stone. But no, that's not him. And so the whole time I'm like, oh, maybe it's I feel like Ico. I'll have to try to figure out what it is on my own, and being like, oh no, I was wrong.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
So Ico, we kind of skipped over this, but in order to beat the creatures, he can't just use his fists.
No.
He has to use any physical object. So he used a torch. He was like, I'm going to use fire to beat shadow, which, genius, right? But the fire goes out, so he just has a club, and he just clubs them to
He's
death.
just playing whack-a-mole.
Fire should have done something.
Yeah.
You should have been like, back, beasts.
And also, it's like the light gets rid of the shadow, right?
Like, stick the fire, like, near the hole to get rid of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. That would have been smarter. Sorry. I'm not trying to tell you how to make your video
And then
games,
you would have to relight the stick, right, in order to have the light. I feel like that was in the Plague Tale.
Yeah. So Ico wakes up from the old man vision just in time to beat up more darkness creatures.
Literally plays whack.
There's like too many of them, so they're like, we gotta run. So the girl goes up to the idols in the room.
She just opens them.
And Ico grabs her hand and is like, cause we gotta go. And she's like, idols though, but she doesn't say anything. So she goes back to the idols and she opens them with her hand. And they light up and they pass the way and the pools of darkness are gone.
And then he has another vision
of a woman in black.
And she's the one that places the idols there. A witch, I tell you, a witch.
She's a witch.
So my nose is a full slim.
Section 5, Ico is pretty sure the girl's a spirit. They see a statue of a knight just thinking. He has horns, so he was a sacrifice like Ico. It's what Ico thinks.
But the vision, he allows him to speak to him, and he calls him his son, and he apologizes for what his children must endure, like 1,000-year-old curse.
Yeah,
So this is the first
and-
time that his visions interact with him, and so he's like, "What?"
Yeah, and also the girl like says his name, and because Icio's like, I think she said his name. It sounded like a name. So does she know him? So it turns out the knight was a man turned into a statue,
Yeah.
and he put his hand on Icio's shoulder and says that, "I'm sorry, son.
Yeah.
You must endure the trials, and that really blows." He's trapped here, and then the knight walks away into the mist. What was creepy was he was like, "Oh, statue," and then like he had a vision where the statue like turned to look at him.
Yeah. And his cape's like moving.
His cape's billowing in the wind, and then the guy just gets up and walks away, and he's like, "What?
My dad.
Daddy?"
And so
Is
he
that
chases
you?
them, holding the girl's hand, and he almost falls off the broken bridge.
Yeah, the knight disappears on the bridge.
The bridge breaks.
It says that the girl fell and Ico manages to catch her, but in the game, I'm pretty sure that, well, this might happen later, that you actually fall and the girl catches you.
I think that does happen later in the book too.
Yeah.
But now they can't go back. But they see
Yeah.
a next set of idols, the next level.
He apologizes. He goes back to the knight statue and it's still there, I guess.
It's on the other side of the bridge now, isn't it?
Yeah, but the statue's still there, so the guy
Yeah.
didn't walk, so that's kind of weird. Like, oh, okay. So they crossed the bridge, the remainder of the bridge.
It was just like, oh my god, they keep going up. Like, I don't think we've ever gone down anywhere. I'm like, what is that? He went up a tower. He went.
I
Like,
understand, like, going down to leave makes sense.
Yeah.
Going up to fight the queen of the castle makes sense. But I'm like, what are we doing now?
They were just.
What's the plan? So they have to get down. The shadow creatures are back. This one, they're birds now.
Also, they're like, they have horns. I'm like, when did they have horns?
They have horns in the game.
But I must have missed it at the beginning where the shadows had horns because I don't remember.
I don't think they brought it up until now.
I was like, when did that happen? And also, I'm confused about the wing thing
What do you mean?
because we find out who the shadows are.
Yeah.
Why do they have wings?
I don't know.
In the game, it makes sense because they fly and they like drag her up, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't make sense in the book. Like there should have been a separate sacrifice from another town.
That
That if
has
you
wings.
grow wings, then you're sacrificed.
Maybe that could work.
I'm rewriting this book.
But the creatures are talking to him now, and they're like, "Why are you attacking us? We are the same.
We are you.
We're the same."
You are us.
So the sacrifices are these creatures, and they're trying to take the girl.
Yeah, so these are all little kid spirits
Yeah.
that are in the sarcophagi who didn't get spat out. And
Yeah.
they're like dying.
This is what it
but
means being part of the castle.
Yeah.
Is you turn into these spirits that like.
That's why you
hang
live
out in the
forever,
castle.
because you are now a ghost shadow. And I was like, that is so messed up.
The creatures are like she's getting pulled into the ground again, the darkness, and the creatures are talking to her too, in her language. Icio's like, I don't know what they're saying to her,
Yeah.
but
But
she's
he gets a vision.
but she's like, I'm giving up.
Yeah.
I'm just drowning now.
Like the
You're
whole time
right.
she does it. I hate it.
Then lightning shot down and Icio turned to stone. Just
Yeah.
kidding, it's another vision.
Uh-huh.
So it turns out that was like a warning. If
If she gets sucked into the
it's like an
Holes.
Until Dawn, you know, where you pick up one of those secret items and it tells you a
see who's
potential
gonna attack you
a
next.
potential outcome
Yeah.
that could happen. It was
Don't
kinda
go
like
left
that.
down the trail, kid.
So it turns out that if you don't save her, then you turn to stone. Icio turns to stone.
Now they're on the terrace and they find a mine trolley, which to us is a mine cart. On the trolley.
The girl does not want to follow. She started walking back the way she came.
Yeah.
Exactly like I said in the game. She was
She
like,
does it all the time. To wander around. She's lost. She's lost in her own home.
she eventually was followed to the observation deck, and he sees a trolley. He goes onto the trolley and they ride it.
Looks like a mine cart. He has a
When
vision.
Icio looks over. He sees a younger girl. Who's
Same
like,
girl, just younger. She calls him daddy.
Daddy,
Daddy.
this is fun, Daddy. They flew past some creatures who were just like sitting there.
They're all watching them like,
They're all like, oh, is that them? They were just in there on their lunch break.
found him.
They get off into some great hall.
This I was also really confused about what this room looks like.
I don't
There's
know.
a great hall, but there's a bridge.
I have no idea.
And then there's a chandelier.
Yep. Just imagine like a Beauty and the Beast style.
Are we inside, outside?
Great hall, but outside.
But where it's inside because there's a chandelier.
Yep.
But then also there's like a bridge, I guess.
It's like an upstairs thing,
Yeah,
I think.
that
It's
goes
like
across.
yeah.
He has to climb the chandelier for some reason, and I don't understand why.
He sees another vision of the little girl like tripping, and then the dad called her Yorda. And ICO is like, why is it every time that we hold hands I see something? What's up with that? And so we find out that Yorda is her name, and she used to live here. She points at the chandelier in the middle of the room. She goes there and she's like, right there. And ICO inspects it and is like, that's really rusted and dangerous, and it seems like it's gonna fall at any moment. Why is she standing under it?
Yeah,
and pointing at it.
He also, again, there's a weird voice that's talking to him that says she can't leave. She has all the memories.
Yeah, don't leave with that girl, is what the voice says.
And I was still confused.
And then ICO sees people who are hanged.
So he's on the chandelier now.
On the railings under the chandelier.
I think it was under the bridge too, right?
Yeah, they were just like everywhere. There's a lot of them.
And there's a bunch of blood dripping everywhere.
Yeah, they're bleeding. He sees the knight that we saw before.
Some really, really dark imagery. Like,
yes.
Most of it's really like,
what was interesting, like, this is the parts where I'm like, what? This is insane. Like, the Stone City. I was like, whoa, we're getting somewhere. Yeah. That's when the book started to get interesting. And then when this happened, I was like, what is going on?
It's like Sixth Sense.
There's hanged men everywhere.
And women, too.
And women, and they're all bleeding.
And they're rotting, too, so they've been there for a while.
Yeah. So we see the knight that we saw on the like statue guy.
He's walking
just
through the
walking
room.
through. He's like ready for battle. Let's go.
Isn't he missing his horn?
Yeah, I think so. ICO fell a little, and this caused the chandelier to fall as well.
I'm like, why did this all happen? Oh, he had to crash into it so it would hit the bridge, so the bridge would fall, so she has a way to get down.
Yeah,
he fell down.
She's playing 3-dimensional chess right now. That's why she was like chandelier.
We need to get down there, so I'm gonna need you to climb up to this chandelier. I'm gonna need you to break it so it breaks the bridge underneath, so I can walk down.
That and the and she's like, what?
He did it though.
He did do it. They fell. So they come to a waterway. They see an arch in front of the gate and they run to it. And they're like, oh, the gate's open. Yay. And then they run.
And she falls to the ground because she's worthless.
And she don't be so mean to Yorda. She starts screaming and acting like she's being attacked and is on fire.
She's like clawing at her face and her like legs and
a darkness cloud shows up and it's the dark mist woman from Toto's experience. And she just closed the gate.
Yep. She's like, take that, sucker, you can't leave.
And our girl Yorda just passed out. The darkness lady is like, who are you? What are you doing here?
If you haven't been watching the whole time, lady. And you see the fact that he has horns, so you know who he is.
He's pretty sure it's a demon. He asked if she's the master of the castle, and she's like, yeah, I am. I'm the queen. The
queen I spared your life once. Daughter is my daughter.
Mm-hmm. She's like, ICO, because the queen can talk to ICO. She can speak his language. And is like, she basically says, yeah, this is my daughter.
And then she says to her, like, you are my body. You'll reign with my heart. I was like, the fuck is happening?
So ICO tries to attack, and Yorda stops him. And the queen spares him, but she closes the doors fully. And like, good luck finding an exit, little worm boy.
Also, this is where we find out that Yorda could understand him the entire time.
Not yet.
She just can't talk to him.
ICO's like, you're no queen, you're a witch. And the queen slaps him across the room. And Yorda goes over to ICO trying to protect him. The queen is confused by this, but leaves, saying, like, stay away from my daughter. And I'm out. And Yorda touches his wound and heals him.
Because she is glowy.
She can do that. ICO was sure the queen couldn't kill him, and she was bluffing. He's like, I think she would have killed me, but she just didn't. So she just throws him around. And now we're on chapter 3.
Before we jump into Tales of Yorda.
Cage of Time.
At first, when she says this thing to her, like, you're my body, you'll reign with my heart, I thought what happened is that Yorda, her daughter, was dying, so she gives her her own heart, and so she's a part of her, and I think that would have been cool.
That would have been more interesting.
Because then it would show that she actually cared for her daughter.
Yeah, she definitely doesn't, but she definitely postures like she does.
Yes.
Which is gross. She definitely has toxic mom problems.
Well, she just wants
Where
all the
she's
power.
like, I gave birth to you.
And
I
Yorda doesn't
deserve-"
understand why she had her. I don't understand why she had her.
Me neither. And so Yorda is like so sure that she cares because she's like, she obviously like, I'm still here, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's a terrible mentality to have.
Mm-hmm. So chapter 3 is the one that we struggled on. It's the longest of all the chapters, and it's Yorda's point of view.
So at first, because it's Yorda's point of view, and then it kind of goes back to like when we meet her and stuff, and like her point of view while the events that we just read about happened. And I was like, I don't hate that. I'm glad it happened
The
really
first
short.
two sections are like retelling it through her perspective.
And that's not bad. What I hate, and honestly, they should just cut that part out.
Yeah.
That part should have been cut out for sure. Because I really didn't need to know her point of view of that specific situation.
So she holds time, or time holds her, and she's having this existential crisis in the cage.
In the cage. Yeah.
And then again, the cage and the boy and the shadows, and then in capital letters, this whole time she understood him.
But she can't do anything about it.
She just can't talk to him.
Yeah. She recognizes this boy. When he shows up to like let her out, he's like, I'm gonna let you out. She's like, I know you. Oh, where do I know you from? The shades and the dark creatures are the queen's slaves, and they're here to kidnap Yorda. Yorda tells us that if she's kidnapped successfully, then these shadows will become prisoner again, and ICO will turn to stone. So she's like, I know what would happen if I get taken. And yet, she still like gives up sometimes, you know? And I think that that's kind of messed up.
Yeah.
That she's like, I don't care if this kid turns to stone. I'm sad.
She got serious depression, and that happens later on in the book too, where she's like, just put me to sleep. I would just want to sleep.
So
I don't want to deal with this anymore.
Finally, it's kind of rough for her.
Yeah.
She finally believes this isn't a dream, and this is when she starts to, open the idol door. So, Yorda isn't giving ICO visions on purpose. She's just, it's like an accident, because she'll hold his hand, and then his eyes will go blank. She's like, what is happening? Yeah, they go to the statue of the horned guy that she definitely knew the name of, and she was like, I know him.
Azuma.
She fell from the bridge.
So also, she is part of the castle, it kind of tells us, and that leaving is what's causing it to crumble.
She doesn't get why the castle's falling apart and it's alive, and then she realizes because she left her cage. So she got her memories back when the queen shows up and the gates close, so we're all caught up now. She finally remembers stuff.
So Azuma is the name of the horned knight, and he tells her, a child of my blood will come to save you.
So she is like, I'm going to help ICO escape, but I'm going to stay here. She realized what was causing her to give ICO visions, and it was just that ICO wanted to know more.
So it's his fault?
Yeah, I guess.
Because no one's telling him anything?
But maybe it's not, because who knows? This is false information.
But she is the holder of the memories.
Yorda and ICO are just like trying to figure this out so hard, and they keep being wrong.
Because they can't communicate it. They can't be like, well, what do you think? But Ico communicates it with her, and so he tells her like everything he's thinking, and she's just like blank stares.
So we back to the stinky elder and the Book of Light that I wrote, and the book magically opens to a picture of a sword, and he's like, oh, ICO found the sword, and then that's the end of that.
But he didn't, so.
I don't know, yeah.
But maybe he does, maybe this is all at a time.
I have no idea.
So, section 3 on is the memories of the past.
Yeah, now we're going to go way back in time to when Yorda was the princess of the castle and the queen actually had a kingdom.
We find out at the end that this is like hundreds of years before.
Yeah, it's a long time in the past.
So Yorda is 16 and there's a tournament. She tried to leave the castle, like her handmaiden gave her like
her handmaiden is jacket, like, I'll help you sneak out and meet up with my boyfriend who's outside.
The lowly guard. You can go out and walk around and then come back later this night. And
so she goes like a little bit halfway before her mom's like, in her brain. Her mom's like, come back. You can't do that.
If you leave, I will destroy this bridge and all of the people on it.
You're just too pretty. You can't go outside. You're too beautiful. That's what she says. So stupid.
So weird, too.
You're too pretty. All the guys will get you. You can't do that. So she heads back. She wimps out. She heads back, and her handmaiden gets sent to the queen's
And I'm
chambers.
like, are these gonna be the hanging people? Like the whole time,
I
I'm like,
definitely thought these were gonna be the hanging people.
yeah, no.
So then we get into more of a backstory where her dad passed away when she was 6. She wanted to, but then like that doesn't matter. I don't know why.
Her dad's important to her.
Her dad's important.
And he will become important later, sort of. I could have done without that story, too.
Yeah, I could do without that story as well. But she wanted to beg her mom not to hurt the handmaiden. So she's like, can I have an audience with my mother, please? And everyone's like, no.
She now doesn't have a handmaiden. She has the head handmaiden, who's this old lady.
Mm-hmm.
And
finally, the queen was like, yeah, we can speak, but outside.
Come to the cemetery.
The courtyard where loyal servants and people of the castle were buried, but
so there's a cemetery outside the castle, because this castle is like floating, or not floating. This castle is surrounded mostly by the ocean.
Yeah.
And so there is another cemetery further on, but there's a small cemetery within the castle. It's a great honor.
Mm-hmm. She's gonna show Yorda a secret.
Oh, now she's all in black too, because usually her mom wears all white,
mm-hmm.
but now she's in black.
Ooh, and her goth phase.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not just a graveyard. Her mom takes her down some stairs into darkness, and it takes a long time.
Also, it takes her a long time to figure out what the heck is happening.
Yeah.
Because she sees all these statues, and her mom's like, look, I did this. And she's like, oh, who carved these? They look really awesome.
They're fine. So, like, downstairs in this, she finds, like, a gallery full of statues.
Yeah. I was like, what, in the Medusa?
And Yorda sees the statue. When it finally clicks for her is when she sees the statue of the handmaiden and her boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, oh, uh-oh. Her mom turns people into stone and places them in this chamber. And then Yorda's like, I can't take this, and falls unconscious.
No, she faints.
She faints. The corset was too tight. She faints.
There's a lot of fainting.
Yorda wakes up in her bed next to her mom. Some of those stone people were the warriors who win the tournament.
Yeah. So this whole tournament is a ruse.
So she's like, so other kingdoms don't snipe them, is what her excuse was. Because she's like, why? If you win the tournament, you get to become like
the head guard.
Head guard for a little bit, and then you get to like run a little army, and then eventually
you train all the soldiers, and so
eventually she just turns you to stone so that other kingdoms don't take you.
Or so you don't try to take over the kingdom. Too.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm gonna preemptive attack you. Although you're my loyal subject now, and haha.
What's funny is like Yorda's like, do people not ask about these guys?
She's like, do you know the type of guys that join these tournaments?
People with no one. Mm-hmm. And if they did ask, I would just say they died in battle.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh
so
my
brave. It's like, but
gosh.
Every single one of them, like
obviously
weird.
Yorda is like, they're messed up.
Then we find out that her mom made a pact with the dark god to wipe away.
Like at birth.
She was born on an eclipse.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't her dad want her to like kill her? He's like, that's not good. You were born on an eclipse.
Oh yeah, she had like her family life was that her dad was like, this isn't good. I want to kill you, and her mom was like, no, this is dope, dude.
Yeah. She is a light in the darkness. No, she's not.
She swore never to use her powers unless necessary, which she breaks all the time.
And she's waiting for the next solar eclipse to take over the world because she wants to kill everyone to remake it for the Dark God.
Yeah, wipe the world clean and start anew with the Dark God as its true creator. The main god is that sun god we talked about before, the soul Revan.
There is this Tower of the Wind, which is a tower that we see like multiple times in the book.
Yeah.
There are idols or statues that are blocking the way. And Yorda's like, I can't get in there, but something about this place is important. And she looks up and she sees a dark figure in the window.
Yeah. And then when she's walking back, defeated because she can't go into the Tower of Winds, she sees a tall figure near the bridge. And then we find out it's the swordsman.
Because he's got horns.
The one with the horns on his helmet. He's lost. He was going...
He is so not lost. He's stalking her.
He's going to the tournament, and his name is Ozuma. Well, we already knew that.
He's about 40.
Mm-hmm.
Which was weird later on when they're like, this is about love. And I'm like, she's 16.
I'm like, maybe paternal, love.
And, well, he doesn't love his kids, that's for sure. His voice flows like a river.
She tries to tell him about, like, oh, don't win the tournament, you'll turn to stone. But she, like, kind of doesn't do that.
Yeah, she can't quite say it. Also, we find out that Azuma's people all have horns,
Yeah, all of them.
and they're like wanderers.
But
They are
Azuma
protectors of the earth.
is more interested in that Tower of Wind she was just at. And he was like, did you see that thing up there? And she's like, yeah, I totally saw a thing move up there. Crazy. So they went to
I too have seen that thing.
deserted place in the castle where Yorda tries to tell him about the tournament. Don't join the tournament, you'll turn to stone. But he is not listening. So yeah, he's like, hey, let's meet here again after I win my next battle at the tournament. And then you can tell me whatever you've been trying to tell me this whole time. And she's like, okay, that sounds great. So Yorda goes and talks to the captain of the guard, who asks, so how's the tournament going? Like, who's winning?
Yeah, is there a guy with horns?
Yeah. And
He talks like a river.
she was going to tell the captain of the guard the secret, but then she chickened out because her mom was literally there. And the mom was even like, tell him, pussy.
I dare you.
She was like, no, I don't think so.
Captain of the guard would make a great statue.
So, yeah, this is when she meets back up with Azuma after his tournament.
Is it after or before? Because she asks him to lose.
Well, not this one. So he won one already. So he won another one, and then he comes and he meets her back up. And she's finally like, okay, don't win the tournament, please. I can't tell you why, just don't win the tournament. And
he tells her of the shadows in the tower, and that seeing the trapped spirit means her true eye has opened. Eye? Like third eye?
Third eye. It turns out Azuma already knew all of this, and he only
I don't know
wanted to
how he
test
knows all
Yorda
this
to
stuff.
see if
I
he knew
kind of
this.
do, but don't know how he knows all this stuff.
Azuma already knows about the Queenstone Warriors and that she's sketchy, and like she's like he's honestly like everybody who's in the tournament kind of knows about this, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because even he was like, you don't think people would not notice that the warriors have gone missing or
the
died
whole
in battle?
reason why he knows is because he's actually, and he tells her this when they go to the trolley, which is like her special spot, because it reminds her of her dad.
Daddy.
And he talks about the Holy Zagreda Soul Empire, and they have the Sword of Light to destroy the dark, but the head guy got this vision, and he's like, the darkness is coming. But how he knew every single thing, because Azuma knows what's up the whole time,
Yeah.
was really confusing.
The young king of Zagrandia's soul had a revelation that using this glowy sword, he has got to strike down the Herald of Darkness.
But then...
Who knows? But they sent a letter to this queen.
Yeah, they sent a letter to everyone
And
being
they were like,
get
"Help
ready,
us.
darkness is coming, send
Help
us
us in the holy war.
Yeah.
And she left them on read. So they're like, it's definitely her.
Well, you find out she left them on unread because she saw the people coming, she turns them to stone.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, everyone else responded but her. So you know who it is? Her.
Her, definitely. If
she
you
have a
ghost
name?
somebody, you're the worst. You're the Herald
Does
of
this
Darkness.
queen lady have a name?
It's the queen.
Okay.
Yeah, turned out Ozuma is a spy, and he's like, I actually wanted to meet you specifically.
He is the advanced guard.
He tells her all the citizens are under an enchantment in her little
No one can leave
kingdom,
the kingdom.
to not leave. It's not just you, Yorda. It's everyone here.
But
So-
she is the key to her mother's downfall.
Yeah, Azuma tells Yorda that she is the one that can defeat her. It's part of the prophecy. And
Which I would like to hear what this actual prophecy is, because he's got like detailed notes.
Azuma thinks that the queen is afraid of Yorda because she has the power to defeat her, so that's why. I don't know. I have no idea. Anyway, section 8 here. Yorda's like, I want to watch this tournament. I hear there's a horned guy, and I like that.
She's trying to be like less sus, like
Yeah.
that she knows. She's like, I heard there's a guy that looks different. Like
And I
the
hear
captain of
he's-
the guard was talking about him.
Doing really well, so. Yorda is like very conflicted about striking down her own mom.
Yeah.
She has this issue a lot.
She also is like, what is this tournament? I don't like this.
So she watches Azuma fight this guy named Jadam, a madman with a battle axe.
I also didn't need this at all.
And yeah, I don't need this at all. It's very long. And
The
Azuma
important part was
wins.
at the end.
Sleeping that night, Yorda wonders who to side with. She sees her dad.
He's like, she's in bed, like, I can't sleep. She looks over and her dad's there.
Just sitting there. He's like a spirit.
He's
And
trapped.
He's like, I can't talk now because your mom's coming and I'm scared of her.
She knows I'm out.
So he didn't say like meet me somewhere, right?
He tells her that he is the master of the Tower of the Wind, and that Yorda is the light that will save them all.
All right.
But your mom's here, and so
She's right outside the door, but she didn't come in. She was just like standing.
yeah, and Yorda hears her, and she's like, "Should I open the door?"
Should I open
What's
the
happening?
door?
So she's just like listening at the door, and then her mom like turns and walks away. Creepy.
So apparently Azuma gave her a magic pebble
Yeah.
to use if she needs help, and all she has to do is like squeeze it and be like Azuma, and then he would show up.
But he doesn't just show up because they have to meet at the trolley.
I can't imagine how a magic pebble would work.
He's like, it like pulses, and so he's like, oh, it like beeps, right? It's like
beep,
a pager.
beep.
He's like, meet me at the trolley. But
He went
before that,
to see Master Suhal.
yeah, and he's in the library because she has questions about a book she's reading.
That's
but really,
her tutor, Master Suhal.
yeah. And there's a bunch of other people in the library, and they have to stand whenever she comes in. And she's like, maybe tell them not to.
Yeah, it's fine.
Rude.
She's like, I kind of want
to.
I kind of want to come into this library more often.
Yeah.
So can you guys not like have a panic attack every time I walk in here?
I read books too, okay?
So she's talking to Master Suhal, and she's like, I kind of want to write a book. And he's like, that's great. What do you want to write a book about? And she's like, my dad.
He's like, oh, there's a lot of these histories of kings.
He did, like great things. I'm sorry we haven't written the thing about your dad yet, like about him being a great king. Our history writing. We're behind. And she's like, no, not about him as a king, but him as a person. And he's like, oh no. So she asks, like, so how'd my dad die? And he's like, never
I don't even know.
Asked me that question.
He shuts her down hard.
Never asked me that. Get out of here. And she's like, okay, jeez. So she's leaving, and one of the librarian people are like, "Oh, you're leaving? This place is kind of a maze. Let me walk you to it, and let me walk you out of here." So then she sees a spyglass
in a locked storage box,
and she's like, "That's cool. What is that?" And he's like, "Oh, a spyglass. Isn't that neat?"
You look in it, you see far distances, but we don't need these anymore. So it's broken too, by the way. She's like, "Can I
see it?
See it?
Can I have it
so I can study it and tell Master Suhal that I'm a boss at these?"
Yeah, but devices? She's like, don't tell Master Suhal that I picked this up, because she's like, oh, because the people can't leave the kingdom, but with a spyglass you can see outside of the kingdom, so it's
at least she can because her eye is open.
It's kind of banned or whatever. Yeah. So the queen broke it, is what they're saying.
Yeah, it's not broken though. But he thinks it's broken because when they look through it, they can't see anything because they're all enchanted.
Oh, because they're all enchanted.
But because her third eye is open, she can see.
She tested in her room and it worked, and she can see the world outside, and she sees a stone boat with stone people on it.
And then she goes to her other, because she's going through her different windows to be like, what can I see? As she jerry rigged her door for the head maiden lady. If it opens and it crashes, she can hide it. Which then she sees an endless line of marching figures.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stone people, and they look like emissaries. So she calls upon Ozuma with her magic rock to like ask about that.
And he's like, oh, yeah, 25 years ago, we sent an emissary caravan from the Holy City. So those have been there for 25 years.
Yeah. So she and Ozuma decide, like, let's go to the Tower of the Winds and talk to my dad.
Oh, yeah, because my dad showed up, by the way.
Who told her, master of the tower. Her dad said to meet me at the place where your memories are the strongest tonight.
Which is where they just were, at the trolley.
Which is the freaking trolley. So both Azuma and Yorda, they talk about why Yorda's mom killed her dad, because she definitely did.
Yeah. And Azuma knows all the stuff that's happening, and I was like, how...
Because her dad was a high priest of the sun god, right? And Yorda, and so that's why she died.
Because he asks him to. He's like, well, was your dad, is this who your dad was? And she's like, yeah.
So Yorda heads to the trolley to talk to her dad, and she sees her dad's shadow and two of her dad's advisors' shadow, which I didn't need.
Yeah.
So she finds her father's signet ring, because he's like, take this ring, and...
Which we found out earlier that the mom tried to take off of him, but Master Suhal was like, no, bury it with him. And so she didn't get the ring, because it's a mirror of her own, so I guess when two rings come together, I don't know.
So that's the only way to get into the tower without the shades bothering you, because there's a bunch of shade shadow people in there.
And how to open the idols.
And how to open the idols, yeah.
He also tells her that he will not be himself. So be aware,
Yeah.
lady. And she
So
has to climb the tower to claim the true light.
this is my warning. This is where I started skimming. This is the part where I started to skim the book a little bit.
There was way too much information. None of this was necessary.
None of this was necessary.
You could have really just stuck the book at the top of the tower and it would have been fine.
There's so much edits that could have been done to this section to make it more tight and better and less unimportant information.
She thinks that her mom loved her dad, and come to find out, no, she didn't at all. And why she had Yorda's still confused.
Why did I have Ozuma discovered the Book of Light? Oh, is he talking about it?
Pebble Magic meets Azuma, shows him the ring, and tells him about the book of... Oh, he's like, oh, that must be the Book of Light must be there.
Yeah.
Because she has to claim the true light. And he's like, oh, it has to be the Book of Light. Again, Azuma is like all-knowing.
Yeah, he just knows everything.
Yes.
So the Book of Light is definitely in that tower that her dad's in. And it's the only thing that can stop the Dark God. And if you carve that stuff from the book into a sword, then you're unstoppable.
Yeah, but don't they already have the sword?
You get cool guy power. I don't know.
He talked about the sword earlier when he was talking about the...
Maybe he carved it into his sword later.
Or maybe the guy saw a vision of it. She asks for his help. And come to find out, he's a distraction.
Yeah, she wants to go to the tower alone.
Yeah.
She also thinks that she can save her mom. She's like, I can fix her.
Yeah. Power of the book repels you.
So Yorda goes to the tower while Azuma's going to fight in the tournament to distract her mom.
Yeah. So she uses the ring to open. She has the ring on a chain around her neck. She uses it to open the tower and she starts to climb up. It's the same tower, by the way, that is at the beginning of the game. That has the cage and all of that jazz.
Yep. The tower is empty. And she's like, that's weird. So she goes up the stairs. She's like, there gotta be a book here, right? Mm-hmm. So she goes up the stairs, and then the shade creatures like show up, and they start like running after her. Yeah. And she's like, uh-oh. So she runs up the stairs. She's like, back, foul beast with the ring.
She sees a giant cage.
Giant metal bird cage, and inside are her father's remains.
His robes is what she sees first. So she's like, oh, my dad's gotta be there. And then, so she, of course, does the same thing where she has to lower it.
The levers to bring it down. She ran down the stairs.
So that's also totally messed up that her dad's remains were in the cage that Yorda will be in later on.
That was messed up.
Because you find out later, because she's looking at the bones, and the bones are discolored, and they're also to the side. So it's like, did he die there?
I think he did.
It's what it was implied.
It seems like he died there.
Because they buried him, and she was like, well, they buried him. Did they dig him up to put him in this thing? And she's like, no, he's laying on his side, and his bones are discolored, which means that he was poisoned and then put in this cage.
And so the body must have been a different body that was buried.
Unless they...
With the enchantment over it.
Maybe.
Maybe one of his advisors.
Yeah.
So yeah, she ran down the stairs. The stairs were falling out from under her. She brought the cage down.
Which is the broken stairs that Ico sees.
And that's why she's like, oh my gosh, my mom knows I'm in here.
Yeah.
She's breaking these stairs. So I gotta hurry. So she approaches her dad's skeleton, but no head.
Yeah.
So she finds the skull, and in its teeth...
How big is this book?
I must be a very tiny book.
But then it seems like she holds it up later that it's
seems like it's a big book, but...
He's just lightly chomping on it.
Big brained. It's hidden in his... So she pulls it out of the skull, and the skull comes alive and like spits the book out. Blech. And then attacks her by biting her. And so she slowed time, and she decided to throw the ring at the skull. Slow-mo. Womp, 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 womp. Boof. And then the skull explodes.
It is this, like, fight scene between her and the skull.
The skull is messing her up.
Yeah, it is.
Biting her super hard. And I honestly thought this scene was kind of cool. I was like, a skull comes alive. Can you imagine this in the game? How cool that'd be? You'd be like, no, my dad's remains. And then you go pick up the book, and you'd be like, I got the book. Doodle-doo-doo-doo. And then the skull shows up and is like, I'm gonna get you. Rattle bones, and then like attacks you, and then you like pause time and you throw something at it, and then it explodes, and it's like, oh, my dad.
And then she's surrounded by all of these spirits, and they're like, thank you for releasing us.
Thank you for releasing me. She grabbed the book, and the book healed her bite wounds from her dad's skull.
She's glowing
And
now.
her dad's ghost is like, goodbye. Thank you for saving me. The enchantment is broken and the tower has been purified.
And she walks out and dun da da dun.
There's the queen, dressed
On
in black.
the other side of the bridge.
She's like, I can't believe you've done this.
And then is this the part where she looks around and everyone's frozen? Or is that later on when they walk to the middle of the bridge? I think that's later on.
So Yorda tells her that she's like, look, I don't want the evil darkness world, actually. Not a big fan of that. And the queen claps back with like, I wish you were never born. And this is where the queen turns her whole kingdom into statues.
But they're not statues, though. They're just frozen.
They're frozen. Yorda thrusts the book in her face, and the queen screams.
Also, this is what I pictured about this fight.
Okay.
Is that
they're on a bridge, too.
Queen comes after her. She holds the book up. The queen is just thrown against the wall. She's like, and then she holds the book up again, and the queen is just thrown against the wall.
Yeah.
Like, I just imagine the queen just getting like battered in the air. And no one reads this book. You just hold it up.
Yeah.
Is there anything actually written in it? Besides the picture of the sword, because
that's
on
all
the cover is the symbol. That's all that matters.
Yeah, it's like slowly like disintegrating the queen too. Mm-hmm. So the queen threatens that if she dies, everyone in the castle will die too. She's like, I'm taking everyone with me if you kill me. But she almost kills her with the book. She's like slowly getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
But there's a tiny like thread left.
Yeah, and so she possesses the queen, possesses the people, and is like,
they like
kill Yorda.
Blackness goes like over their eyes, and they go crazy.
And they go and try to attack her, and then Ozuma shows up and is like, we gotta get out of here.
He like picks her up. She's holding the book, and they
jump into the water. And she passes out again. So now we're back to Ico and Yorda.
I feel like was watching this whole thing and it was the information. So now he's up to date and he knows what's up. And she goes on to say that she failed later on, but we don't see why or how.
She couldn't defeat her mom.
And also that there's a curse that Azuma's blood still protects her. And then so Ico's like getting this information from her, but she's not talking to him. It's all like mental. And I'm like, she still can't talk to him.
So we're on chapter 4, the final battle.
The final battle.
So IDK how Ico figured this out, but after Azuma and Yorda left with the book, the Sangrenita Empire or whatever attacked, and there was a battle. But I guess Ozuma and the Priest King and like the whole empire failed. Yes. So Ico is planning to find Ozuma's sword so he can like retrace his steps, and so he's gonna go underground to the pier. That's the plan.
Yeah, because that's where the sword is. He's got to get the sword in order to be successful. It's like, but like Yorda's looking at him like he's a young fool. Ico is optimistic that they will succeed. He's like, I will save you and the day and the world. I can do this.
So they blew up some barricades that were covered in gunpowder. I mean, that was kind of unnecessary.
That's also in the game.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay. So they arrive at the graveyard. They get attacked by creatures again.
Also, there was a quote in there that I really liked. I don't remember what part of the chapter. It says, not all history is told in stories and chronicles. The parts untold, the dark passages of time, were these that swallowed men's hope and made the I can't even read my own writing. Distinct was between good and evil as nebulous as mist.
So the creatures show up again?
This is also where you find out that Yorda is like centuries old, because he's like, oh dang, if you knew Ozuma and that was like the 5th century, then like we've had several other kings since then, so you old lady.
So the creatures drop another truth bomb saying, this is why we were sacrificed, so that Yorda can live. Mm-hmm. They're bound to Yorda by a curse, and they're like, you know what? We're going to actually take her for ourselves, F the queen. Yeah. Which is strange. And he defeats them, and they talk about why horned boys like Ozuma are sacrificed. It's because the Zangren soul made a deal with the queen after they lost the fight so that the queen didn't destroy them completely, which is not true.
Yeah.
Not true. They just figured this out. Or maybe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe the queen's lying, because we're going to find out the queen's side of the story at the end of this book.
Which I believe her, because I don't think she has a reason to lie.
I kind of believe her. I believe it's kind of a mix of this.
Yeah.
So Yorda has a pity party, and then they have to
She's
keep
like,
going.
it's my fault. I failed. I should just give in. And yeah, Ico's like, pick it up, girlfriend.
So Ico slid down a water pipe and then had another disturbing vision. He's in a prison.
He's in like this large cistern. Also, we find out that it's Yorda. Yorda's like, it's my fault that we failed. But so he goes into a cistern and then he goes into this underwater thing. She's like, no, don't go there. Mm-hmm. And then he sees this vision, which is also super dark.
So there's a bunch of people in there and they can see him.
Yeah.
Like, this is the first vision where they can actually see him. And they were all driven mad, the people in this prison. And they started killing each other. And there was like no exit in this prison. So
there's a guard. He's like standing on this one because like people are like in the water and they're like thin and being eaten away, and he was like, oh my god, this was a prison.
This was cool in a way because like, so he went down to the prison and he got the guards talking to him.
Yeah.
He's like
when the enchantment broke, so like the enchantment that she had over the city, everyone went crazy. They were killing each other. This is where you find out that they were like hanging people, the guards and stuff.
This was kind of cool. One of the ghosts like took off his helmet and his eyes were gouged out.
Yeah.
And then he was like, everyone died. And then the vision ended. And I was like, that would be so scary. And if you had that in the game, like you go down, you see all these people, you can like talk to them, and then you talk to a guard, and then it like zooms in on his face, and then he takes it off, and his eyes, and he's like, everyone died. And then when you come out of the cutscene, everyone's gone, and you're like, woo! But there's no exit, it's a prison, so he has to go back up.
He's gonna figure stuff out. Yorda should just tell him what's up, and she doesn't, of course. He's like, did you know that this was a prison?
Can't, though.
She could we find out she talks to him like telepathically though, like when she touches him and stuff. So in order to open the gate to go out to the pier to get the sword, they have to go to the eastern and western arenas in order to open this thing that shines a light on the gate, which will open the gate. So they go to the eastern arena first.
And there's a weird thing where like they were climbing and Ico started to scream because he saw somebody like right behind Yorda like fall.
Yeah.
Like commit suicide
like,
or
jump.
something.
And he's like, oh, it looked like a handmaid. And I was like, oh, it's the old lady.
Yeah.
Because Yorda knows who it is. You don't find out who it is.
You never find out who it is. Yeah, so it was a vision.
Also the part. And she's like sad when she looks down. But there's no one down there, of course, because there's no bodies anywhere.
Yeah.
Which is also weird, but
the queen cleaned up, I guess.
They've been dead for a while. Maybe they're in the room with all the...
So he, like, a bunch of shadows showed up and tried to take Yorda. She had to jump a long distance. It was kind of hard to get her to do it, but she eventually did.
Yeah, because he's like, just do it. Also, at this point, and it made me laugh, was like, he's like, well, maybe I should just give her up. She's making this difficult.
Yeah.
He's like, stick your shit, Yorda. Like, get your act together.
Well, she's throwing, like, constant pity parties right now.
She's like, I should just give up.
I should just die. So they arrived at the Eastern Arena, and Ico finds a sword, and he's like, dope. So Ico does not want to spend another night in this castle. Mm-hmm. So he climbed a particularly long staircase to a throne room.
Yeah, because so they opened the Eastern gate. Now they have to go to the Western arena. So they have to go on the other side of the castle. And as they're doing that, now that he's kind of seen the layout of the castle, because before he was just getting lost and doesn't know where he is. Now he's like, I see the pathway. I know where I'm going. We got to go into this room. It's the throne room.
So, yeah, it's the throne room, and mist starts to roll in. And on the throne, we see a female corpse in a black robe.
Yorda sits on the throne, and then the room fills with mist. And then, on the throne was seated a female corpse wrapped in black.
It's the queen!
It's another vision!
Yeah, and then he sees another vision, and Ozuma and the priest king guy from the kingdom. The queen killed herself, I guess, but Ozuma was like, I'm gonna I'm gonna, like, you know...
Yeah, the priest, the head...
Take her head off.
It's like, do it. Because
just to be sure.
Yorna also says, these are the remains of my mother.
Yeah, she's like, yep, that's my mom, can confirm. And then she wakes up And Yorda's passed out by the throne, and Ico runs up to her, and the Yorda says, "If Queen dead, then why Queen alive?"
Yeah.
And then it turns out that it's not Yorda, but the Queen who has possessed Yorda.
Or is Yorda, or...
The Queen answers
Also,
her.
this does not make sense, too, because Yorda is glowing with the light of the book, so it has that magical power that also destroys the Queen. So I'm like, how could the Queen be Yorda and she be magical?
She definitely just possessed her, like, for sure. She just possessed her in this moment. The Queen answered her own question, and she's like, "It's because I am the castle."
The castle and the mist is me, and I am the castle.
When Yorda broke her enchantment, it only destroyed her human form. The chief handmaiden with enchantments on her was the one that got beheaded instead of the Queen.
And Yorda lied.
Because Yorda can tell.
Yeah. So she took pity on her.
To protect her mother. So the Queen fully possesses Yorda and is throwing Ico around the room.
Yeah, she picks him up and throws him against the wall. Picks him up, throws him against the wall. And then he's like talking about his parents, and I'm like, don't tell her anything.
Talks about how his foster parents loved him, and the love has to be the same. And the Queen is like, "I gave birth to her. Of course she loves me." Yeah. And she's been possessing Yorda when they found the handmaiden's corpse. Kind of, maybe. Maybe she possessed her and lied. Maybe she actually just lied. We don't know.
Yeah, this was confusing. She tricked Yorda into letting her live inside of her.
Yorda thought that she saved her mom by taking her within her body, but the Queen just wanted to lie in wait for the eclipse when the dark god took over.
So they leave the castle, Yorda, Ozuma, and the priest, and they go to the Sun City.
Yeah. But the Queen is
napping.
Still in her.
Yes.
Very Kingdom Hearts.
With the book, they have the Book of Light.
So she also tells him, finally, somebody tells him this, that Toto is dead. Because she talks about Toto. He's like, yeah, he's dead. He's stoned. She also says that she never once asked for sacrifices. In fact, her or the castle don't even need sacrifices. It's just a thing that people have been doing.
Oh, yeah, this is where it gets messed up. But we also find out that after the beheading thing and they leave the city, that's when she turned that city into stone, when she was Yorda. And so they knew that
she was in Yorda.
She was, not that she was in Yorda, but that she was still alive. And that's also where she lost the Book of Light, because they took the Book of Light to that city and she turned everything to stone. And she's like, suckers, I'm still here. But then this is the part where I believe her, where she turned a city to stone. They freaked out and they're like, how to appease her? Well, the tower was full of dead people, so let's give her all these dead children.
The Priest King stopped time once he realized the Queen wasn't defeated, and they used Yorda to do this.
Yes.
To stop time. So they put Yorda in a cage, and the sacrifices were to create shades so that Yorda couldn't leave.
So they like power the time thing. Yeah.
Or just to cause her not to escape.
So the time that doesn't go is just in the castle. Then she's the battery that keeps the clock still.
Yeah. So Horn Kid being sacrificed were Ozuma's idea, actually. He felt bad.
He offered himself and his descendants.
That Yorda had to be put in a cage, so.
But she's like, they're so dumb, because guess what? The Dark God feeds off of people's misdeeds, and they're killing kids.
So
I win.
The Queen's just chilling. She's like, I don't do anything. I just
waiting
sit
for the
here
eclipse
in this castle. So she didn't kill him because she honestly didn't care.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't need to kill you. The mark...
Yeah, the priest and the king and all that are the ones that are going to feed the Dark God.
The only thing that his magical mark did was just prevent him from turning into a shade. That's why he couldn't tell the priest about his mark. So she's like, so since you've been wronged, would you like to go seek revenge at the capital? You can take Yorda with you if you want. You can leave with Yorda.
This was
join me,
because again she turned that other city into stone, and then if Yorda leaves, then the Queen can leave. But I was like, the Queen already left because she was in the city with Toto.
Yeah, she was in the city with Toto.
So
maybe just the Forbidden Mountains area in general. Perhaps.
Don't know.
She
offers Ico an army to be like, take your revenge on all these dead kids.
Yeah. So Ico,
or I can turn you into stone. That works too.
into a fetal position.
And then she disappears, and
He's
alone.
like, you know what? It might be okay to be turned to stone. The shadow creatures show up behind him, and they,
He's being moody. He just wants to sleep. He's like, I'm done with life. This whole thing is stupid. I got sacrificed for nothing.
they keep changing the rules all the time.
Mm.
So Ico went to talk to Stone Ozuma. Well, more like punch him. Ozuma actually dodged his punch, and went down a corridor, and Ico was like, come back here, let me punch you.
But what takes him out of his mood is that Toto sacrificed himself for the book, which allowed him to save Ico's life. So if it wasn't for Toto, his friend, dying to get the book, then none of this would have been possible. So yeah, he's chasing Azuma.
Azuma goes to the bridge, and he's like, there was love here. Also, go find my sword.
I hate Azuma.
Why? Because there's love here?
Because he's sacrificing his descendants to do what?
To do nothing. He's so stupid. But he has to leave the castle in order to find the sword. The sword would call to him, but he's in the castle, so time
he tells Ico, you already know. And Ico's like, no, what?
So
it's the sword.
Ico has to jump into the water.
Because the castle keeps changing, and he's like, oh, the whole thing is it's her castle. Yeah. So he jumps into the sea, and when he does, he thinks of Toto.
So he ends up in a sea cave with the sword.
He has to go through all of these things to get to the sword.
I didn't write any of them down.
It's like chains and like
it's behind a waterfall.
Wheels and chains, and the wheels are actually cages. So why you have like 3 prisons in this little castle thing? Lady's got issues.
Yeah, there are 8 cages. I don't know why they specifically 8. Like, I should know that there's 8 people in these cages, but whatever.
As he's jumping on these cages to get to the other side.
People were imprisoned here. The blade shows him the past life of all of the sacrifices when he does manage to get it behind the waterfall.
He picks it up and he sees the reflection. The reflection is not him. And then it goes through this montage of all these happy kids with horns, girls and boys.
When, with the sword, Ico can now move the idols out of the way.
And the sword asks him, are you ready to rumble?
He went to the sarcophagi room. And
also, he's decided to save Yorda again.
Yeah, so he sees Yorda, and she's a statue now. She's in the sarcophagus room, she's a statue now. Mm-hmm. And the shadows show up around him, and he's like, I'm not dealing with this. And he destroys the sarcophaguses with his sword. And then the shadows start helping him do that. And each sarcophagus he destroyed, the stronger he became. The shadows are now at peace, whatever. He opened the path to the throne room and the queen.
He's like, let's finish this. Also, this throne room is way cooler than
the queen's throne room versus whatever the hell that was. The actual throne room.
So she's got throne
2 throne
out of obsidian, and it's got dragons that are spitting out black things, which they're like, oh, it's fire. But he's like, no, it's
cooler than the throne in the game. Yeah. So the queen is like, so you've made your choice? And he's like, you lied to me. You told me I could leave with Yorda, but she's stone. And the queen is like, yeah, I packaged her up for you. Every time she leaves, she'll just turn to stone.
Yeah.
So she's ready to go.
But she already left one time before and she wasn't stone. I don't know. None of this makes sense.
So the queen so he's like, I'm going to kill you. And she's like, okay.
He rushes her and she just like moves her hand and it's like
throws the sword around.
Yeah, he got hit multiple times by wind and he just like
by wind and his sword's just getting like thrown around like a toy is what he says, and then he loses a horn.
Mm-hmm. He falls on the ground and it lands right
and
on
the shades are actually protecting him, but now they have like actual faces, which is kind of scary.
He is hiding behind the idols because like with the wind is like little like needle-like things. He loses a shoe, and these got to be the best freaking shoes ever.
What's funny is they're like, yo, what's worked this whole time are these shoes until now.
Yeah, he's been even later he misses his shoes, so these have to be the best shoes.
So yeah, the shadows are protecting him, and they keep being turned to stone and then turned to dust
because his shoe got.
And it's like
loses his shoe, and that got turned to stone. So he's like, oh, the sword is saving me, and then he goes to try to get the sword. And then she throws something at him, and he doesn't quite get it, and then the shadow blocks it, and then that's turned to stone.
So, like, a huge bunch of shades are, like, walking up, and they're kind of helping block him as he goes up to the queen.
Stone all along.
And they're all like, you can't stone us all, baby!
I'm going to need you to explain the last queen fight, because
Well, he just stabs the queen.
it's like seeing the queen's true form is the knowledge. I get it now, and I'm like, what is her true form? That has a white neck?
Well, she's wearing a mask. That's the one thing.
And
She's
so he
wearing a
stabbed her
white
in the
mask.
face?
He stabs her in the chest, like in the game, and then the mask like slips off a little bit, I think, and then she crumbles and turns to dust.
So by seeing her without the mask, she dies?
No, he stabs her.
But what's the true form part?
I don't know, dude. I don't know.
I was so confused.
He saw her without the mask on, I guess. Since she was the castle also starts to crumble, and
It
ICO
sighs and starts
passes
shaking.
out. So Yorda, who's free from stone, she comes to the throne room and she sees passed out ICO, and she picks him up and she carries him out of here to the underground pier, where she puts him on a board,
Which is broken, so
in the water. In the game, it's just a boat, just a normal boat.
she pushes him.
Pushes him until she can no longer push him, and then she super pushes him and then goes back to the castle.
Because she can't swim?
For some reason, Ozuma is still stone. I guess because he's old. And he falls into the sea. His statue.
Yeah, but his statue, they're like, made this whole point of being like, his statue didn't crumble, but it fell into the sea.
And his cape billowed, which was not stone.
Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, the castle crumbles.
Everyone in the Stone City got turned to dust, but not Arrowwind the horse.
Yeah.
He was turned to stone recently, so he gets to live.
And he is like, I'm out of here.
He runs
bitches.
back to the village. And then
At the end, Toto is awake.
Toto's awake. I'm glad they didn't bury him.
Yes, or, yeah.
I was worried about him for a second there.
You think they told his parents? Like,
Probably not.
Because I think the elders next to, or the wife comes to be like the...
I think they just left his statue in the room in the elder's place next to him. So the epilogue happens, and ICO floats on a beach.
He awakens.
Does not remember, like, anything.
No.
He's like, something happened, my body ached, and I'm missing shoes.
Where's my mom? She's gonna be mad at me.
He gets up, and someone else is on the beach, and it's Yorda.
It's a girl in white.
And he's like, I know this girl somehow. I don't know how I know this girl, but I do. And then she wakes up, and then he takes her hand, and
He gets like some memories where he's like, there was a castle here. And...
It's gone now.
But he doesn't remember he doesn't remember being sacrificed. He doesn't remember anything. Which, do you think he'll ever remember? Or do you think everyone just kind of like, oh, you didn't do all those horrible deeds of sacrificing children?
Don't know how this is going to end for him. Because she still can't speak his language.
But she also doesn't remember, too.
Gonna have to learn. She doesn't remember. Some young boy just grabbed her arm and is taking
She's
her.
like,
I know him. So that's the end of the book.
Next month, we are watching. We are reading an ebook.
Ebook only.
It is an ebook only. And it is Watch Dogs in Dark Clouds. We are revisiting an author we have read before, Mr. John Shirley. So, John Shirley.
We're giving him a third chance.
We liked your BioShock.
Yeah, BioShock was good. Borderlands was absolutely...
Garbage.
A madman wrote that book.
So, this is your third chance? Final chance?
This is the Watch Dogs book. It's
Watch Dogs.
like the first Watch Dogs book, I think. So that'll be interesting. Because there's a lot of Watch Dogs books.
Yeah, but they're all
So
I feel like they're
starting with
different.
the first one.
So, John Shirley, you're up, sir.
All right. Well, we'll see you next month for that.
See ya.
Bye.